You might know the headlines, but do you know the journey? The twists, the setbacks, the wild gambles that shaped not just a man, but an entire nation? This is the story you might not have heard, the one that goes beyond the slogans and the speeches. For some, Castro is a hero who stood up to the world's biggest powers. For others, he's a villain who ruled with an iron fist. But no matter which side you're on, there's no denying his impact. He divided families, inspired revolutions, and changed the course of history. But before the world knew his name, before the beard became a symbol, Fidel was just a young man with a wild, almost impossible idea: overthrow a dictator and free his country from oppression. Imagine waking up one morning, looking around at the world you live in, and deciding, enough is enough. I'm done with this regime. I'm going to change everything, even if it seems impossible. That's the kind of audacity that started it all. But Castro's daily obstacles weren't just traffic jams or bad coffee. His traffic was a brutal military regime, led by Fulgencio Batista, with soldiers on every corner and spies in every crowd. And his plan? It was far more dangerous than just complaining or writing angry letters. It meant risking everything: his freedom, his family, even his life, by taking up arms and heading into the mountains with a handful of loyal followers. Against all odds and with the world watching, he pulled off the unthinkable. He toppled a dictator and marched into Havana as a symbol of hope and defiance. But that victory didn't come easy. The road to revolution was anything but smooth. It was messy, brutal, and filled with moments where most people would have given up. There were betrayals, defeats, and nights when the dream seemed lost forever. Today, we're breaking down the 5 biggest, wildest, and most unexpected challenges Castro faced on his path to power. These aren't just history lessons, they're stories of grit, luck, and relentless determination. Each challenge holds a lesson for anyone who wants to change their world, whether you're fighting a government, leading a movement, or just trying to make your voice heard in a noisy world. Or maybe you're just trying to get your stubborn roommate to finally do the dishes. The principles are the same: persistence, strategy, and a little bit of courage. So grab your notebook, maybe a cigar if you're feeling revolutionary, and get ready to take notes. Because the story of Fidel Castro isn't just about Cuba, it's about what it takes to challenge the impossible. Let's dive into the 5 toughest battles that forged a revolution, and discover what it really means to fight for change, no matter the odds. Challenge 1. Batista's military might. In 1950s Cuba, Fulgencio Batista ruled with an iron fist. His power wasn't just political, it was military. Batista's regime boasted a modern, well-equipped army, parading through Havana with tanks gleaming in the sun and soldiers marching in perfect formation. The world saw a government that looked unbreakable, backed by American support and armed to the teeth. On the other side stood Fidel Castro and a handful of passionate friends. They were students, dreamers, and activists, full of ideals, but with no real weapons, no formal training, and certainly no army. Their only resources were their courage, their vision for a free Cuba, and an unshakable belief that change was possible. Batista's forces had everything: tanks that rumbled through city streets, planes that soared overhead, and soldiers armed with the latest American rifles. The Cuban Air Force could strike from above, and the army's numbers dwarfed anything the rebels could muster. It was a classic David versus Goliath scenario, except this Goliath had tanks, planes, and foreign backing. The rebels' first move was bold but disastrous. The attack on the Moncada barracks was meant to spark a revolution, but it ended in tragedy. Most of Castro's group were killed, wounded, or captured. The dream of freedom seemed crushed before it had even begun. Yet, in the courtroom, Castro refused to beg for mercy. Instead, he delivered his legendary "History will absolve me" speech, turning defeat into a rallying cry. His words echoed across Cuba, inspiring others to believe that even in failure, there was hope, and that the fight was far from over. Lesson 1. You can't fight tanks head-on. When the odds are stacked against you, you have to change the rules of the game. Castro realized that a direct confrontation would only lead to more losses. So, he and his followers vanished into the Sierra Maestra Mountains. There, they trained in secret, learning to use the terrain to their advantage. They launched small, lightning-fast raids, sabotaged supply lines, and set up ambushes. Every move was calculated to hit hard and disappear before Batista's army could respond. The goal wasn't to win a single decisive battle. It was to survive, to keep fighting, and to slowly wear down the enemy's strength and morale. Every day the rebels survived was a victory in itself. The dense jungle became their greatest ally, a living shield that hid them from Batista's patrols and gave them the element of surprise. The forest was unforgiving, but it was home to the rebels. Batista's soldiers, trained for urban warfare, found themselves lost and demoralized in the unfamiliar wilderness. The jungle sapped their strength and their will to fight. Persistence and smart tactics began to beat brute force. The rebels struck quickly, then melted away, leaving the army frustrated and exhausted. When you're the underdog, you can't play by the big dog's rules. You have to invent your own. Rules that turn your weaknesses into strengths and your enemy's strengths into weaknesses. Castro's fighters became ghosts, striking hard, then vanishing into the green shadows. They made the cost of holding Cuba too high for Batista's regime. The lesson: never underestimate the power of refusing to lose. Even a single spark can light up the darkness and ignite a revolution. In the end, it's not about the biggest army or the most powerful weapons. It's about the biggest will, the determination to keep fighting no matter the odds, until victory is won. Challenge 2. Lack of resources and support. A revolution is expensive. Castro's movement started with almost nothing. No money, no supplies, barely any weapons. The Grandma expedition was a disaster. Only a handful survived, with almost no gear. Batista tried to starve them out, knowing hunger could kill the revolution faster than bullets. So Castro got creative. He built trust with the rural peasants, paying for food, treating the sick, helping with harvests. The locals became their supply chain, smuggling food, medicine, and information. Every villager, every donkey, every whispered warning became part of the revolution. They set up Radio Rebelde, broadcasting hope and victories, inspiring more support. Lesson 2. When you lack resources, build relationships. Your community is your greatest asset. Scarcity forced the rebels to dig deep and build real roots. Batista had paid soldiers. Castro built an army of believers. In the end, believers outlast mercenaries. Challenge 3. Betrayal and internal division. Fighting the enemy is hard. Fighting your own side, even harder. The revolution was a mix of ideologies. Marxists, Democrats, adventurers, all united against Batista, but divided on what came next. Power struggles erupted between mountain rebels and city operatives. Mistrust grew. Batista's spies infiltrated, turning rebels into informants. One traitor could destroy everything. After victory, even key commanders like Huber Matos were purged for dissent. Lesson 3. Unity and trust are non-negotiable. A divided movement collapses. Castro demanded loyalty and centralized power, ruthless but effective. The real fight was for the soul of the revolution. For any leader, managing egos and building trust is as important as fighting the enemy. Address conflict head-on, root out disloyalty, and keep everyone aligned. If you don't, your opponents will exploit every crack. Challenge 4. International opposition. The world was watching, and the US was not a fan. Batista was America's guy, and US companies owned much of Cuba. The rebels were up against more than just an army. They faced a superpower's interests. The US supplied Batista with weapons and painted Castro as a dangerous communist. Castro couldn't win a direct fight with the US, so he played the propaganda game. He invited foreign journalists, especially Americans, to see the real story. The New York Times portrayed him as a freedom fighter, not a monster. This shifted public opinion, pressuring the US to cut off Batista. Lesson 4. Master the art of perception. If you let your opponent define you, you lose. Castro's biggest win wasn't on the battlefield. It was in the headlines. He outmaneuvered a superpower by controlling his story. In the modern world, perception is reality. A well-told story can be more powerful than any weapon. The final challenge, perhaps the most crucial of all, was winning the hearts and minds of the people. No revolution, no matter how well planned or bravely fought, can succeed without the support of ordinary citizens. The fate of Cuba would be decided not just on the battlefield, but in the living rooms, streets, and hearts of its people. A revolution without popular support is just a coup, an empty gesture doomed to fail. History is littered with failed uprisings across Latin America, where leaders tried to seize power without the people behind them. The Cuban revolutionaries knew this lesson well. Most people fear instability more than they hate a dictator. For many Cubans, the prospect of chaos was terrifying. They had seen what happened in other countries when order collapsed: violence, hunger, and uncertainty. Many Cubans were wary, afraid of chaos, communism, or losing what little they had. Families gathered around radios, anxious for news, uncertain about which side to trust. The fear of losing their homes, their jobs, or their safety weighed heavily on their minds. The Batista government flooded the airwaves and streets with propaganda, painting the rebels as dangerous bandits and foreign puppets. Suspicion and apathy spread like wildfire. People kept their heads down, hoping to avoid trouble. But Castro's genius was communication. Through Radio Rebelde, he spoke directly to the nation, bypassing censors and official channels. He promised land for the peasants, fair wages for workers, and honest government for all. His words reached deep into the countryside, giving hope to those who felt forgotten. He crafted a vision of a new Cuba for everyone: peasants, workers, and the middle class. No one was left out of his message. He spoke of dignity, justice, and a future where every Cuban could have a voice. This inclusive vision drew people from all walks of life to his cause. The beards, the uniforms, the image of the selfless rebel. It was all part of the story. The rebels became symbols of hope and sacrifice. Their appearance, their discipline, and their willingness to risk everything for a better Cuba inspired admiration and trust. As the rebels advanced, people welcomed them with open arms. Crowds gathered in the streets, cheering as the columns of fighters rolled into town. The army's will to fight collapsed, not just from military defeat, but from the realization that the people no longer supported them. The war ended, not because every soldier was defeated, but because the people chose the revolution. Soldiers surrendered, not out of fear, but because they saw their neighbors, friends, and families embracing the new order. Lesson 5. You can win battles, but if you can't inspire the masses, you'll fail. True change is not imposed from above. It rises from below, carried on the hopes and dreams of millions. Change happens when one person inspires millions to join them. When a leader's vision becomes the people's vision, the impossible becomes possible. The revolution spread like wildfire, fueled by belief and unity. Your cause must become their cause, your story, their story. Only then does a movement become unstoppable. Only then does a revolution truly belong to the people. That's how you win the final, most important battle, the battle for the soul of a nation. And that is how history is changed forever. So there you have it. 5 mountains Castro climbed to win a revolution. He faced a powerful army, started with nothing, fought betrayal, outwitted a superpower, and won the people. These aren't just history lessons. They're strategies for anyone fighting for change. Whether you're launching a startup or leading a movement, these principles apply. How can you be more persistent? Build support? Tell your story? Castro's story proves history isn't just something that happens. It's something you make. What challenge are you facing? Which lesson hits home? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this useful, hit subscribe. There's more history to rewrite.